we're a new board. The board was formed in August, and many of us are relatively new members to the Garden Club, and as well as being new members to the board. So we felt that we really had to spend some time learning about the club. And so we held meetings almost every week from August until November, meeting with each committee, meeting about the budget, really laying out different plans for how we were going to manage the club or manage our responsibility for the club. The club's kind of an interesting situation because it's multiple things. It's a social club. It's an educational organization. With our lectures and our workshops and programs, but it's also a 501c3 nonprofit. And, we own the old mill and we're members of the Wakeman Environmental Building. And tenants there. So we have fiscal responsibilities too. And, we have fundraisers. So we're just trying to balance that. So we had a lot going on. At this point, though, we don't have any significant issues to bring to you, but we just thought we'd talk about where we are and what some of the committees are doing, because the people in the board are just amazing. They're energetic and smart and committed. And most people on the board wear multiple hats in the Garden Club. So I figured we'd be able to share a little bit of that with you. So I think in case we have new members who don't know, who do we have from the board? We have Joan Evel, the secretary, Joan Cavazzuti, who is membership, Donna Arold, who does president of communications, Trudy Williams, who is the Edgartown VP, Ty Johnston, who is the club VP, Katie Dawson, who is the head of the communications or the program committee, Jane Isford, who is the Oak Bluffs VP, and my replacement when I became president. Who else do we have?
Gay.
We have, yes, Jason row 4 of my kind of.
I know, sorry. March of all today.
We have Gay, who is the VP for Vineyard Haven. And I think we have, did I see Sheila?
Sheila was here, I thought.
Yeah, I think she was. But anyway, Sheila Fain is the VP for West Tisbury. Lauren Lynch has been the VP for Chilmark, but she's also the executive director of the Ag Society. So she just informed me that she's resigning from the board because she really doesn't have time.
Oh, that's too bad.
It is. But we're going to be looking for a volunteer from Chilmark to join the board. So let me see, what else was I going to say at this point in time? I think that's about it. So I'm going to, I do want to say Elisa Emden isn't here, but she's been a phenomenal treasurer. She's the one who got us the capability to pay our membership dues by credit card online. She's done a lot to really clean up all the financial systems. She created a budget that was very well thought out based upon all of the meetings that we had. So we're beginning a new year. Elisa's in the process of selling 2 houses and buying 1. So she just.
Yeah, that sounds crazy.
Doesn't it? So anyway, with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Katie Dawson, who is going to moderate it for us and share what we're planning to talk about.
Hi. Okay, hold on. So hi, everybody. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do is mute your computers, because that helps so that we don't have any background noise. If you look at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, there's a microphone, and it has, if it's not muted, it's got a green light. And if you click on it on mute, it'll turn it off. And if you can't, don't worry about it. I think if most of us are muted, it should be okay. That helps with bandwidth, and it also gets rid of that background chatter. Speaking of background chatter, my neighbors have a chainsaw today. So today we've got a pretty simple program for you. we're going to keep it lighthearted. And what we wanted to do was introduce you to the leadership, the board, so that you can know who they are if you have questions. And we basically have a very simple structure. And first, I'm going to introduce the board members, and then you get to talk. And this is what we are going to talk about. We want to know, how did you come to live on the vineyard? What brought you to become a member of the garden club? What particularly garden, horticultural, or environmental interests or others do you have? And then each of the board members will explain what their roles are. And I thought that I'll get started first, just so that you can see what I'm talking about. That was some kind of background noise. Can you guys hear me? Everybody can. Okay, great. All right. Are you hearing that feedback? We've got some kind of feedback going on. You hear that? Two things fast.
Sounds like your neighbor's chainsaw.
It's not my neighbor's chainsaw. It's not coming from here. Maybe it's Dave's iPad that's coming.
I think it's gay.
iPad and computer are on.
It's not going away.
Don't, are you muted? Don't ego.
Is everybody muted except for me? Weird.
I think Gay's iPad is not muted.
His iPad and also computer.
Dave, you know if that's your,
I think it's for me. I'm sorry.
okay, now it's
I
clear.
can't find Arch, so.
Okay,
I'm-
so don't worry about it. Just stay as you are, because that solves the issue, whatever it was. Okay?
I think
all
it's the blowing around the condo. So.
Okay. All right. So anyway, my name's Katie Dawson, and I am the head of the programs committee. And when I say committee, it's really a team effort, because it's me and Donna and Jane. And we got together this late this summer, early fall, and started to put together the programs for you guys. My background is I moved to the Vineyard 9 years ago. And my past, before I moved here, my past career was in commercial horticultural sales, and I ran the Master Gardener program for the University of Connecticut. I was the coordinator for Litchfield and Hartford counties for 7 years. So basically, I went through the Master Gardener program for 7 years, and also helped develop the Advanced Master Gardener program for the University of Connecticut. Then I went into sales for, I sold perennials for Sunny Border Nurseries, and also trees and shrubs and things like that to the landscape trade. When I got here, I let all of that go. And now I'm a realtor and a mover for BTI Mayflower and Donnelly & Co. And I love gardening, I love horticulture, and I missed it, so I decided to join this club. My specific interest is not very practical. I'm very, very interested in formal French kitchen gardens, and also formal French design. But then I also love the work of Pete Udolph and very naturalistic kind of landscapes, but I definitely am a design fanatic. I also love to grow vegetables, but again, I like them to be in like little perfect little squares and rectangles and triangles. So that's my interest. And also I'm very interested in knowing what your interests are, so we can help develop these programs. This year, we've got a really cool mix of programs that we pulled together. A lot of local people will be in our programming. We've got a backyard cherry grower. We've got people that are growing hops to grow beer, to produce beer. We've got a great international speaker, Dan Himes, who owns a garden center and nursery in Oregon called Terra Nova Nursery. And we've got some other really kind of fun, quirky things that you can learn about on the website, so you can see a full list. And having said that, I will introduce our next person, and I'm going to go to Jane. Jane, are you here? Did she
No,
leave?
she just texted me that she lost the internet.
Oh,
trying to
okay. Hopefully she'll be back. Then why don't we go to Donna? Take it away, Donna.
You unmute me. Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Donna Arold. I am, as Susan said, the VP of Communications. I've been working with Karen Huff a bit on the website, so I really enjoy doing that. But a little bit about my background is we used to autumn vacation on the vineyard in the 90s and always dreamed about moving here and buying a house. And it's really nice when dreams come true. So we bought our house here in 2017 and moved up here in 2018 when my husband and I both retired. My past life, I used to manage a day spa and hair salon. I did that for some 25 years. And then after that, we bought a bed and breakfast in New Jersey, and I ran and operated that, owned it for 12 years. That was wonderful for me because I was able to do a little bit of everything that I really enjoy doing, mostly gardening and mostly cooking and baking, which has really just morphed me into the club that I'm part of now, you know, with you guys, the flowers, the baking. I love doing those kinds of things, and that has never changed for me. My interest mainly, as far as gardening goes, edible flowers, herbs, those kinds of things that I can incorporate into my love and my other hobby, like, as I said, which is baking and cooking. Let's see. I love touring other gardens. I really like the formal style of gardens that are out there. So I'm with Katie when she says she's a freak about garden design. I love that. However, if you've ever seen my gardens, they're really very disorganized and wild. And I sort of like that for myself, but I kind of like, you know, some structure for other people, but I necessarily can't grow things like that. My role at the Garden Club is, as I said, VP of Communications. I do all the social media, the Facebook, the Instagram. I've been working with Karen on the website, which is really a lot of fun. She gave me an opportunity to do some pages and revamp a bunch of things. So if you haven't looked at the website lately, please do and let me know what you think. I'm a huge fan of pictures. So if any of you ever have some really fantastic photos of your garden, of something you're growing or something you're doing, certainly email it to me. I'm going to be putting together or finalizing, I should say, a newsletter for the Garden Club, which I think is something that will be really fun. My goal, one of my goals for the Garden Club relative to my role and what we've also been doing with presentations is growing the membership by becoming a more dynamic club with better communication. I really think it's important for us to know what you guys like and want to hear and want to see and want to do. And I'm hoping that through my role with the social media, with the newsletter, with some stuff on the website, that we can create a little bit more of a dialogue between us. Because I don't think it should be board and members. I think it should be us collectively putting our heads together and doing, you know, what we all want to do. So that's about it for me.
Thanks, Donna.
Sure.
Okay, and great job, by the way, with the social media. I saw you posted the heirloom gardener John Forti today, and those of you that don't follow him, you should. He's pretty excellent. Okay, and we don't have Jane back yet. So how about Joan E? Joan.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So I'm Joan Evel, and I'm the secretary for the Garden Club. And I came every summer here to the vineyard. And about 10 years ago, when I retired from teaching in New Jersey, my husband and I moved to our summer cottage here and sold our house in New Jersey. This was quite daunting since the cottage is built in 1880 and had no insulation or heat. And we sold our house in New Jersey in 3 days. So it was a whirlwind getting this organized, but we've been very happy here. And I thought I would like to get involved in some volunteer work since I really didn't have time in New Jersey for that with teaching. So I decided to join the garden club, and I've really enjoyed it. I wanted to do outreach into the community as part of my role in the garden club, in addition to being the secretary. And I got very involved with Windermere, which is associated the nursing home right next to the hospital. So working on a flower project that's been ongoing for the whole time I've been here, maybe 10 years. Donna Rama helps us with the flowers, and it's up until COVID was once a month activity with anyone who wished to participate, and the residents enjoyed it very much. And we would make arrangements. Each of them made them for their room and for the hallway and the dining room. And as much as possible, we tried to get them to do it themselves. And they really enjoyed that. And every month I would have different people in the club join us, which was a nice way for them to meet different people and see, other people than when you're in a facility like that. It's wonderful to have different people come in and talk to you, and they really enjoyed it. Unfortunately, with COVID, we haven't been going for the last year. So I have a plan for the spring and summer. Should things get a little bit better, I talked to the director. About 15 residents used to come to our activities. So we thought if we did it twice and had half that amount of people, and we could do it outside in the hospital garden and set up a table out there where we wouldn't have to worry about being in an enclosed room. So we maybe could start it up again, but they have expressed really missing doing that. The other thing I got involved in was the scholarship fund, and that award that we give every year to someone from the Vineyard, either the high school or the charter school or homeschool can apply for it as well. And the requirement is that they're planning a major in horticulture or environmental science, something to do with the theme of our club. We've had some outstanding students win our award, and I always go to the award ceremony and mention our club and supporting the young people. We've received lovely thank you notes from these students. I think it's important for us to give back to the community as much as we can, and this has been, I think, a very worthwhile. You see it when you pay your dues that you can give an amount if you would like to do that for the scholarship. And we'll be starting meeting again. We have a committee and work together. Vita's on that committee. Where's V? She's down here. Yeah. About 5 of us get together. We spend many, many hours going over all the applications and picking the best one. We have some very outstanding students that apply for it. So, all right, I think that's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Joan. So I see that Jane is back, and I thought maybe we could go to Jane next. Jane, you need to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry about that. Our internet totally cut out and looks a little flimsy. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, all right, great. So I'm Jane Isford. I'm VP for Oak Bluffs, and I'm also doing the floral design component this year for Blooming Art with the great Trudy Williams. I joined the club last year, and we've had a home in Senja-Kentucket since 2003. And like many people, we're part of the pandemic input to the island. We moved here full-time, pretty much full-time in 2020. And one of the questions we were asked is, why did you join the club? And I joined the club because Susan asked me to. And it's been a wonderful experience. I found moving to the island full-time, it was a great way to meet people from across the island that I wouldn't have had a chance to do just being here in the summertime. So it's a great group, really, really enjoyed it. I consider myself the people on the screen in front of me. I grew up in the country in Canada. So with our properties there, it was much more focused on wildflowers and habitat. And then when we first got married, we lived in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I went to a lot of garden club tours in BC and also in Victoria, which was lovely because that has a really strong British influence. So a lot of the gardens there were very much focused on some of the British things. And then we moved to Greenwich, Connecticut. We were there for 30 years. In that time, we spent 3 years in Tokyo. and met some wonderful families in Japan who also toured me to a lot of gardens in Japan. And Nancy Weaver kindly took me around Polly Hill recently, which was a real treat. And one of the things that she mentioned to me was that a lot of the plants that work in Tokyo also work well here on the island, because I think of the acidity in the soil. So just interesting seeing some of the connections. And then my focus in Greenwich, quite honestly, was again more on habitat. I did a lot of work with neighborhood associations where we worked as volunteers to restore vernal pools, vernal pool plantings, and tried to restore a lot of those in Greenwich where there were many. I'm not sure if there's a lot of vernal pools on the island, but there were many in Greenwich. So that's kind of my background, and thrilled to be part of this great club.
Thanks, Jane. Jane, were you a member of the garden club in Greenwich?
Actually, I was not. I was not. I went on a lot of the tours with friends. So being part of a garden club in this fashion is new to me. And I have to say, it's been just a great experience.
That's great. So just as a little side note, I'm glad that you brought up tours. We are going to try and put together some garden tours. And whether we start with local gardens, if any of you know of beautiful privately owned gardens on the island that you could get us into, we would love to put together some kind of a garden tour in the future. Okay. So how about now we go to Joan C.
Okay, so I'm unmuted. Yeah, as far as background goes, I grew up in Syracuse, which is very cold, and moved to Florida, which was really hot and humid, and then moved to Norway, where the days were much longer, but not a dissimilar climate to Martha's Vineyard. So I've seen a lot of different kinds of gardening in my life. And I think my favorite, though, is gardening here in the Northeast, where you have the seasons, you have this time of year, which unfortunately I'm back in Florida, you can start seeds, which I think it'd be, is one of the most interesting things and most satisfying when you can start a plant, from a little seed and see it grow in your garden. I know I did that a lot when I lived in Norway, because even though the days were long in the summer, you just had such a short period of time to grow things. You had to start things inside if you wanted any success. So I'm in charge of with Sarah Lally, we're doing membership, and membership depends on our social communications, which you're doing a great job with, Donna, and I really appreciate it, because I think that word is getting out that this is a fun place to participate. I know I've only been a member for 4 years now, and I've done blooming art for a couple of years, made the flower arrangements. I think that's wonderful. And I just think that that's like a fun way to participate. I've also had people come and tour my garden. I was going to say to you, Katie, you need to contact maybe Dan Gordon if you want to see some formal gardens. He's a landscape architect. He lives, I think, out in Aquinnah now. I think he bought a place there, but he also works out of Boston, the Boston area. In this time of year, I'm down here in Florida. I don't have a garden. I'm in a condo. So vicariously, I participate in gardening by going on Instagram and looking at a million garden sites, and seeing gardens, seeing what's going on. And I think that's really a fun way to keep up with gardening. And I can give you some recommendations if you'd like that. I also, I've started watching Gardener's World with Monty Don, who's a British, a British gardener, and he goes through the seasons as to what you need to do. And that applies really to the Northeast and to Martha's Vineyard. And I listened to a podcast called A Way to Garden. So that's what I'm doing with gardening these days. And I just really enjoy being part of the club and all the activities that are going on.
That's awesome. And I think, as Donna creates, sorry, that's Bosun. As Donna creates her newsletter. It would be awesome to have people, Joan, anybody, maybe email your favorite resources and sites, because I think that's something that all of us like to do in the winter. You know, we're all kind of anxious to get outside, but it's those great websites and photographs and planning that keep us all excited. And next, I think we should have, how about Ty? Ty, I'm really glad that you're here. You need to unmute yourself, please.
So yeah, really, I usually don't make the meetings because I do teach, and we're in my classroom right now. That's why I have my mask and say, in case any children come out of the other room having finished their lesson. I have a child and my assistant is in the background working, and then the others are in the back doing assignments. So I have them all set up and they don't need me quite now. So I'm not going to be really long, but this has been so interesting hearing everybody. I mean, I've been meeting with so many of the board member for such a long time, and just to listen to some of your backgrounds is really fun. And I wish we had done this sooner. It's really nice. We moved full-time to the Vineyard after being here with a summer cottage for 25 years. We moved here in 2014 full-time, and I was in the Sharon Garden Club, Sharon, Massachusetts Garden Club for many, many years. I was the president of that club. I was the vice president, and it was very similar to this garden club, and we had lots of activities. I enjoyed it so much. We had one of the very favorite things that we did that I organized was the walkabouts, which were where members shared their own gardens throughout the summer season. Usually was June, July, August. You would sign up for which season you felt like your garden showed best, and we would organize just opening it up Saturday morning or something, or a Tuesday afternoon, or whatever worked best for yours. See who would come. Usually it would end up with maybe 4 or 5 people would end up coming to your garden, and you could just show what you've been doing and ask questions, and you'd learn so much. And you'd learn so much going to the gardens, and also the gardener themselves would learn a lot from whoever would come. And it wasn't like something like you'd have to have it like perfectly manicured, like a real garden tour for one of these fancy ones that you go to, but for like the open days or something. But it was very fun. So maybe we can get something like that going. I joined the garden club here after unsuccessfully trying to retire from my job several times over the last couple of years. And so I finally thought I had retired. But so I joined the garden club thinking I would have lots of time to do these things. And of course, I came back again this last year doing it again, teaching again. So but this coming up year, I will be free, and I will have a little extra time. So this year I'm helping Susan. I'm kind of her moral support, and she cries on my shoulder a lot. But no, I'm joking. But we have a good time. I wish we could meet in person more often, because meeting in person is a really, really wonderful thing. There's one of my students just walking by. Well, anyway, but so it's been really wonderful. And I guess I can't remember what else I'm supposed to say. What gardens I love. Perennial gardening and just like decorative gardening. I'm not really a vegetable gardener. We live in West Tisbury, up in the woods kind of. So really have to really be creative with shade plants, which I'm really, really enjoying learning all about. Plus shade plants that aren't attractive to deer, that kind of thing. So we can, you can all help with that maybe. I guess that's about all I have to say, right? Any questions or anything? Hopefully we'll get some good garden tours going in the future.
Those darn deer.
Hi. Right.
Mm.
Well,
Well,
I have to get off. It's because I have to go back to my class. So I
Yeah.
might have to
Well, it was really great to see you and thanks for joining us.
Wow.
I think we'll put some shade gardening on our list as far as programs. Okay, so next I thought maybe Trudy could talk. Trudy, you have to unmute yourself, please.
Thank you. I'm Vice President for Edgartown. I came to the island in 1995 when my son first moved here. Came mostly in the winter to dog sit. They are international birders. They have a bird list. I'm here now with 3 dogs that keep barking. They were the only house on this street. There was no construction on either side. Now they're building on both sides. There's trucks going by and the dogs are barking. But the birders are in Duluth, Minnesota. It's snowing there and very cold. They're looking for 6 owls for their list. And I'm here for a couple of weeks. So we came from Warren Township, New Jersey. We had a 30-acre farm. Understand about developers. We kept that as long as we could. And we retired to Cape May, where we had a condo. So I joined the garden club there. I really enjoyed going to Longwood Gardens and Philadelphia Flower Show, but I didn't have a garden. So about 10 years ago, our son called, he bought a piece of property that had a 80-year-old cottage. And he asked my husband to come up and be clerk of the works to get it up to town codes, the electricity, the heating, the plumbing, pretty big job. So he really enjoyed being clerk of the works. Unfortunately, he passed just before this pandemic started. So that's been kind of tough. I joined the garden club here and I was really intimidated by the blooming arch, but I did it anyway. And I found that there was tremendous support. And even last year when I did it, I got in a little trouble because my artwork was all red and orange and the show's in June and I just couldn't figure that out. But then I was reminded it's an interpretation. And so there's no right or no wrong. And Caroline gave me some tips and it worked out really well. So when Jane didn't have any help, I signed up to help her out. And I also agreed to work with new members. I see Susie's on here and Pam. Nice to say hi to you, Pam and Susie. They're both new members that I recognize their names. So now I know a face. I'm happy to do that. I'd be happy to answer all their questions, try to get them involved, make them comfortable. Questions such as, when is the last frost on Martha's Vineyard? 90% of the time, it's May 21st. 10% of the time, it's April 20th. So I'm a gardener. I have a little vegetable, big one in New Jersey, small vegetable garden. And I joined to learn about plants and flowers because I really don't know that much. What else? I can't think of anything else.
Trudy, that's awesome. Have you seen the movie The Big Year?
Yes, that's on that's their retirement goal. Yeah, that's what they want to do.
So those of you that don't know, Google The Big Year. It's the ultimate birding movie, right? Very cool.
Yeah, they'll be going again in April to Arizona. They normally would be in Sri Lanka or Africa or Madagascar. You know, they wanted to do the international birding while they're young, and then when they're older, they'll just do around the United States and try to do a big year.
Amazing. That's amazing. Thank you, Trudy. See, this is why this is so cool. We get to learn so much about each other. I love it. Hi, Olivia. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, sorry, I'm late, guys.
It's okay. So Olivia, if you could just mute yourself for right now, we'll kind of get you in the groove in a couple of minutes. So Gay, is Gay still here?
Oh, I am. Believe it or not, I'm here.
It's your turn, girl.
It is my turn. Well, we've been coming to the vineyard for probably almost 40 years, but mostly as summer people until we retired here to Martha's Vineyard 7 years ago. So I was in education, and my husband Arch, we lived in Pawling, New York for about 40 years at a school called Trinity Pawling School. And so I was very involved in our local garden club, Pawling Garden Club, and which was part of a district. So we did a lot of things. It was, and I did a lot of planning around the town and our campus. one of our board members wanted it to be an arboretum. So we had lots of different species around our campus. So it's been fun to learn about that. I am VP of the garden club here, and I wanted to be a full-time member because I wanted to meet people in the vineyard. It's hard as a summer person sometimes to integrate into different groups of people. So, and the garden club has been great for that, especially since now I'm a VP. So hopefully I can reach out. And Olivia, I'm so glad you're here today. And so I'm a gardener, but I'm not a really good gardener. I just enjoy being outside, getting my hands dirty. We live in the woods in Vineyard Haven, so it's I need some shade help too, Ty. And but it's a wonderful community, and I don't know. As for what I'd like to recommend for the garden club, I like the low-key garden tours, but I think the bigger garden tours are fun. I happened to run one of those for Vineyard Haven, I don't know how many years ago, 5 years ago. And I think it was successful. It was fun. And but as far as learning, I'm always trying to learn things. So, but I think that's it. Oh, and I am involved in the docents for Blooming Arts. So I see a few faces here. Nancy and Lori, I think, are helping me out, and I'll be looking for all of you to help out too. So, and I think that's it.
Thanks, Gay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, just looking, is Sheila here, Susan? No? Okay, no. Okay, so before we move on to the other members, I thought we could hear Susan's story.
Yeah.
We started coming to the vineyard in 1985 for 2 precious weeks every summer. And then we finally bought a house in 2003. And suddenly in 2012, I decided that I didn't want to work anymore. And that I wanted to spend the summer in the vineyard because I had never done that because I'd always been working. I spent 40 years in corporate life. I was going to do that. It was April. And he said, well, if you're retiring, I'm retiring too. If you're going to abandon me for the summer. So we're getting ready for bed when we had this conversation. And I was up most of the night thinking, oh my God, we're going to have to sell our New Jersey house. How is this going to work out? So we ended up putting both of our houses on the market, the one we had up here and the one in Jersey, and closed on 2 houses within a month that at the end of 2012, when we came up here full time. I had never been in a garden club before. I had never been a gardener. I mean, I puttered a little bit, but I really didn't garden. And after we renovated our house, I became a gardener because we had all this yard to take care of, and I don't like lawns. And so I was always finding a new opportunity for where to put a garden in. I tend to have a very overgrown, busy kind of garden. I could never do a garden to meet Katie's standards or Joan's standards or Donna's standards. I'm incapable of a tidy garden. What I've discovered is now I've gone through, I found that Pete Oldorf was wonderful. And then I started putting more and more of his plants in. And then I began to feel as if, wait a minute, this is really a messy garden. And for me to say that was really surprising. This winter, for the first time, I usually trim all the beds back and put a manure compost mixture on for the winter. Didn't do it this year for a couple of reasons. So we didn't cut anything back. We didn't cut anything back because I wanted to have it look like Pete's garden. And at first I was a little shocked because it looked more out of control than ever. Now I have to say, I love it. It's like the garden is alive, even though it's dead, but there are things out there and it's just wonderful. So that's been my garden experience. My other garden experience is trying to do a wildflower garden and not listening to the experts who I remember going to Roxanne's regenerative gardening lecture. And she said, you all want to put wildflower gardens in. Here's my advice. Don't buy seeds. Go out and get plugs and put plugs in. And over time, you'll have a garden. I didn't do that. I bought a lot of seeds. I have a lot of weeds, a lot of grass. So my new approach is I was out there in the fall digging up all the grass I could find and putting little plugs in and putting more seeds in where I took the grass out. So we'll see what I have next year. But that's my garden story.
When you
I think I
put
answered all
in
your
your,
questions.
Susan, when you put in your Pete Udolph garden, did you use plugs?
No, I use plants, not even plugs, just plants. And I'm evolving to it because I only started doing that within the last year or so. Before that, I had a different concept of a garden.
Yeah.
So I have an out of control garden.
And you also have garden angels that come to your garden, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, and we
Yes.
have her speaking in February.
I love Jenny as a garden designer. So when we finished renovating the house and, we just had sand around it, we bought Rose Treat's house, if anybody knew the seaweed artist. And she was 103 when she died. So she had been a very wonderful gardener, but that had been a long time before she died. So anything that she had there were a few things left, like I have asparagus all over the backyard that I didn't even know what asparagus looked like when I first had that stuff in the yard. And now we put more asparagus in. But anyway, I hired Jenny, and because we're on Central Kentucky Pond, we needed to have a garden plan to submit to the Conservation Commission. And so Jenny came up with a wonderful list of plants, many natives, and she did the initial gardening. And I remember she said to me, you may find gardening to be a fulfilling activity and you can expand your gardens. And I really thought, well, that's all I do. I find new places to garden. I am happy gardening every day, all summer. And now I have little projects that I do rocks in the winter. I put little stone walls together, and I'm thinking of starting to do a little trellis out of branches. So I'm garden centric.
Wonderful. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of go through the gallery, and some of you I know and some of you I don't, but one person I know that I'm really happy to see is Susie Wallow. Hi, Susie. Can you unmute yourself and tell us what brought you here and kind of go through the same format that we've done? And also what you'd like to see, what you'd like to learn, what you're looking forward to.
Okay. Hi, everybody. It's really fun. I'm excited to be a member. I know Katie, she told me about the garden club and I had heard about it and I always thought it would be fun to do, but seemed like, oh my God, a little bit intimidating, but, and for me in my own mind, and I'm still working full time. And also, you probably also know my hat of red stocking. So, I'm still, that is full time. So, but I figured, I've got this yard. We live in Oak Bluffs in a little 10,000 acre piece, 10,000 square foot piece of property that we built our house back in the 80s. So we've been here 32 years and slowly I keep working on the gardens and making them perennial because I don't really have time at this point to do a lot of they need to take care of themselves. So anyway, it's a lot of fun. I keep hoping that I have more sun than I do. So anything I can learn about shade gardens would be helpful. And I'm just excited to be a part of the group and learn and have some time to do some gardening and make the time to do some gardening and enjoy all of you. So thank you so much. It's great fun just to get to know all of you.
You know what, Susie, it's great fun for me to get to know everybody. I think that this is one of the best meetings we've had just because we have time to get each other's stories and interests and things, we're going to be, it's really great. Thanks. I'm so happy to see you. Okay, so next, Jackie. Jackie, I don't know you, but we're very happy to see you.
Hi. I didn't expect to be called on. So we have a short history here. We used to visit, I'm getting an echo because of the headphones, but we used to visit off season in the fall, but only not for long. And so we've lived here about 8 years, maybe have been coming and living here a total of 12 years. But we moved from Michigan and I was looking for Mackinac Island, so, which isn't quite this, but so we moved here and live in Vineyard Haven. So I'm with Gay and I'll try to be a docent Gay this year. So we live with, we have West Chop Woods conservation property right behind our house. So, and we didn't plant grass. So I like the habitat type topics and wildflowers and native species is what I'm interested in. And starting plants. I volunteer with the greenhouse, which has been a little weird the last couple of years, but I know Joan's husband, Al, we're trying to get back to where we all work together again. And so I enjoy habitat. We take a lot of long walks and I collect seeds on the power lines and things like that. So I have a messy area I call a meadow, but I'm like Susan. I weed out a lot of grass. We tried seeds and it's a mess, but I'm working on it. And that's it. So I enjoy the garden club, the greenhouse. I have a very small vegetable garden because I volunteer with the gleaning program with IGI. And so I do a small vegetable garden in a wild backyard with lots of deer.
So I'm also in Vineyard Haven. I live on Franklin. So you probably pass by me all the time. Mackinac. Yeah, so Mackinac, you've got a little Murdoch's fudge here too. So Murdoch's originated on
We're going for lack of cars, which didn't happen, but yeah.
Great. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, next, Lori. Lori, there you
Hello.
are.
Hi, everybody. I'm a summer person. I come before Memorial Day and leave in mid-September from Chicago. We bought our house in 1985, retired from work in 93, so started coming those 4 months in 1993. Given the trek, I don't come back. I don't leave the island once I get there much, and I don't come back once I shut down the house in September. So it's my only chance to put my hands in the dirt. I do have a yard, very small, very hands off. I guess I would call it naturalized, just because whatever plops down stays. Although we did have some landscaping done when we first bought the house in 1985, 86. But so I have a couple of dogwood trees and I have a lot of very, very, very thin topsoil and rock. And I come to the garden club to meet people and to hear about what's going on, to learn new things, to get a chance to tour, to volunteer at the Blooming Art. I love watching it. I can't arrange a flower to save my life, but I love being part of that. And I also volunteer at Polly Hill. I started in 2000 when I turned 50. I said, if Polly could start at 50, I would start at 50. Nancy was my first boss, trained me well. I'm in the visitor center, usually at least once a week. It's my love of all time. I love getting away from, even on an island, it's insular. I love East Chop, but it can be, a little bit tight. So it's nice to go to other parts of the island and see other people. And I love talking to people. So it's a perfect spot for me. I get to tell them where to go. And there's so much to see. And I was thinking about what a fabulous resource it is for all of us gardeners because of all the propagating that's going on and all the knowledge that is accrued at that spot. So if you're a new gardener and have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to the Arboretum. Everybody there is so wonderful, so giving, so smart. And it's one of my favorite places on the island. If you haven't been yet, come. If you have been, I know you'll come back. But that's my big love, truthfully. I also volunteer with Library Friends of Oak Bluffs. And that's another wonderful organization that most people don't know about, but our main goal in life is to raise money and help support the programming that the library presents. And those of you who are in Oak Bluffs, I'm sure are aware of what a great library it is. In fact, the whole island is very blessed with wonderful libraries, which for COVID terms have been a real lifeline for me, because not being able to get out, getting books from the library, having access to programming has been a real wonderful thing. And I think probably all of you who are there and use those libraries know how great they are. But if you don't know about the Library Friends of Oak Bluffs, we meet the first Wednesday of the month at 2 o'clock. You can probably find information about us on the Oak Bluffs Library website. So looking forward to being back. The days go fast from now on. They get longer every day. And by the time I get there, there's a lot of daylight, which I can't wait. And hopefully my trees will have bloomed and my garden will have made it through another winter, and I'll see what I can do with it. So looking forward to seeing you all in person soon.
That's great, Lori. Thank you. And I'm just kind of going down the line to Gwen. Hi, Gwen.
Winnie.
Here I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Well, I'm a summer person as well. We bought our house in 1987. It was a house that was built in 1832, and it's in Vineyard Haven. And I did have someone help a little bit because it was bereft of anything that was blooming. And so I have perennials, and I have in the backyard a big annual garden, really a cutting garden. And also in the very front along Main Street is a huge lilac hedge, and everybody loves that hedge and comes and clips every now and then during the time that it's blooming, which is early May. I guess I came to the garden club with my sister-in-law, Bonnie Conway, and joined thereafter. So I've been a member for some time, and like the flowers around my porch. I have a wonderful porch, and I've got flowers all around it, and that makes all of us 3 generations very happy. Love to be in the garden club, love the blooming art. Gay has roped me in a couple of times to various events that she's involved in. And so it's really been fun. Thanks very much.
It's great to hear from you. Thank you. And Fawn, we see you've been walking around.
Sorry, I'm not a good Zoomer. They're always
That's
like
okay.
saying the ceiling. They're like, sit still. I'm like, no. And they're like, the lighting's not good. The dogs bark. So anyway, I am seasonal also, although with this whole COVID thing, we were there very early before everyone was panicking, like, oh my God, everyone's coming here. But we were there early March, and we stayed there till like November. And I'm from New York originally, and we never went to the Vineyard because, I don't know, we went to the Hamptons and Fire Island. And then when we moved to Massachusetts, we live in Needham, we said, all right, we'll go to the Vineyard one day. And I was like, who wants to go on a boat and like take a ferry? Like, it's so much of pain. And we went there, and we're like, this is beautiful. We're like, this is gorgeous. And then my husband's like, I think we should get a place here. And I was like, yeah, I think so too. Like, totally edging him on because he was having a midlife crisis. And first he was buying a convertible, and then he was buying a boat. And I was like, yeah, we should buy a house. And then we ended up getting a house. It was part of the condos at the Winnetou. And my kids were like, I'm going to stay out here all summer. And I'm like, you're not staying out by yourself, so I'm going to stay out with you. And then my husband went back and forth. And then my son, who does real estate, he always shows me houses. And then he's like, Mom, I think you should look at this house. And then we ended up finding another house, and we moved there. It'll be, I think, 4 or 5 years already. It's crazy. And it's in Eggertown in Katama. But I joined the garden club. I think I've been a member like 3 or 4 years already, because I saw that you were doing that blooming art. We call it Art and Bloom, where we have one here where it's the high school student art work. And I was like, oh, I'll do that. I like doing flower arranging. And they're like, you have to be a member. And I'm like, okay, but I'm not there that much. And they're like, it's okay, you could be a member. So I joined, and I have to tell you, I wasn't that active, but I think because of Zoom and everything, it's been great because I got to, you know, like today I got to meet people and I got to go to some of the winter programs because it was on Zoom. So that was so nice for me because I was like, I don't really feel that connection of meeting people because when you're seasonal, it's you don't know as many people. And so I think it's been great. And I think this is a great idea to do this. But I really love flowers and flower arranging. My garden, we put in a pool in this house and we needed a retaining wall. So I did a lot of perennials because I'm into easy, no maintenance. I don't want to be bothered. And we did start a vegetable garden, but I have help, I have to admit, because I kill every plant and I am not good with things. And I love it. I mean, I was like, how am I going to get cucumbers that are going to feed my family? My son eats like 3 things a day, you know, and it's amazing what you get. And it's just been really fun. And I am going to be teaching a program for those, you know, Donna asked me if I would do an interpretation to get you guys ready for blooming art. So for those of you who feel intimidated, you could even join up with someone but by the time you come to my workshop or what program, whatever you want to call it, you're going to be ready to go. But that's my real love. My garden is it's not formal. It's kind of wild and crazy, kind of matches my personality. And that's it about me. So,
you know what, that's so awesome. And one thing that I didn't anticipate with this meeting today was how great it is that we can have seasonal members at our meeting. That is so cool. So thank you, Fawn. And next we have Pam.
Hey.
Hi.
Hi. A little bit about myself. My husband and I moved here just months before the pandemic started. And because of the pandemic, my garden and flowers became my best friends, often my only friends. I just spend all day long in like just meticulous weeding and moving and this and that. And I love it. We moved from Bethesda, Maryland. We had a house here for a long time, since 1990. We've been coming here for like months at a time, months stretched into like half a year. And so we just decided 2.5 years ago to pick up sticks. In Bethesda, I was an art director / graphic designer. And also I was a board member of our AKC dog club. And I trained people to compete. I competed myself. I was even at Westminster. Let's see, what else? Oh, to mention Polly Hill. I did a brochure for Polly Hill's daughter-in-law. I didn't know it was her till we first met. And that was maybe about 20 years ago, Gabrielle Hill. And because of her, I became passionate about loving Polly Hill Arboretum. What else here? I have perennial gardens. We're still working on them because after we built a big addition to our house, which left the front yard looking like a vacant lot. So we've installed a lot of things. It's up and running. I have lots of perennials. I brought a lot of stuff, included with the furniture that we moved from Bethesda, were pots and pots and pots of beloved perennials that I couldn't bear to leave behind. Every single one of them lived. I'm amazed. So we put those around. So I'm always looking for perennial design. What blooms when, the height, the habit, the color, the texture. I love that. My biggest regret is back in Bethesda, I had a very extensive hosta and Lenten rose garden, a tapestry. It's just my pride and joy. We loved it. The deer side of that here, I just can't do it. So I'm interested in learning more about deer resistant things beyond foxgloves and lupins and things like that. I do a lot of ornamental grasses. I was interested way back in the New American Garden with Ohm Van Sweden designers that was back in Bethesda, and I brought a little bit of that up here. And last year, we built a vegetable corral to thwart the rabbits and the deer. So we have a big barrier built, and we invested in this new Veggie Garden raised bed system, and I will send pictures for the newsletter. I'm very, very pleased with that. So I'm going to go back to, I used to vegetable garden and then stopped for just flowers. So we're going to go back to vegetable gardening. And my husband is just as passionate. He's the muscle behind everything. We did it all ourselves. So let's see what else. Oh, the other thing I'm interested in is dahlias. I caught the dahlia fever and joined the MV Dahlia Collective Facebook page, which is fabulous. I've made a couple of friends from that and traded dahlias. And it's time to order now if anybody's interested in that, ordering online. And finally, I volunteered to do an arrangement at the Blooming Art Show. One of my best friends here, my actual best friend, did a painting 2 years ago I went to see at the Blooming Art Show and was just enchanted with the arrangement. So I'm a little intimidated because all I do is stick flowers in a vase, but I've been assured that I'll do okay. We'll see about that. And that's about it. Oh, I live in Oak Bluffs. We live in the Hidden Cove community, but we're a hidden road in Hidden Cove. So I can basically do what I want in my yard without anybody protesting from the neighborhood. And that's about all I can think of.
And that's great. I'm fascinated by the dahlias. They're just so spectacular, right?
Yes. And I expressed interest on this Facebook page, and one of the big deal dahlia people, she's like a dahlia queen here on the island. She said, "Oh, here's my mailbox address. I'll leave you a paper bag with some corms in them and just come pick them up." How generous is that?
Gardeners are generous people. And I think, we're so lucky. We're going to make a lot of friends here. Speaking of friends, we're so lucky that we have a treasure in our club, Nancy Weaver. Nancy, if any of you have the opportunity to ever go for a walk at Polly Hill with Nancy, it is just a blessing. Nancy.
Okay, so I moved here in the 80s. My husband Dave was a summer kid and a mariner, and I worked as a gardener with Peggy Schweer, which was fun. We got to do huge, massive, vicarious gardening for other people and see the island. And then I got the opportunity to work at Polly Hills, which was a garden that everyone could come to, which I love the public part of it. And actually, January 27th, a Thursday at 10, we're having a special, I'm giving a tour about Polly Hill's birthday. So, and that's at 10. You're supposed to sign up with them, but I've never really turned anybody away. And have a garden. It's kind of like an uncontrolled plantaholic garden. And last year during the pandemic, a fun thing I did was got a super part-time job at Heather Gardens. So I'm like, oh God, they're dahlias. Are good. And you guys were talking about birds. there's a new Martha's Vineyard Bird Club. And because we meet outside, we're meeting in person. And this Saturday at 8 a.m., we're meeting at the Lagoon Pond, the boat ramp, which is in Vineyard Haven, kind of next to Winds Up, near the bridge. It costs kind of sliding scale, whatever you want to pay to join. And Matt Pelican's going to run it. That's it. I love people to come see my garden. You can email me now, and you can come in the winter if you want. Always something.
So humble you are. All right. Thanks, Nancy. So Elliot, nice to meet you.
Hi, nice to see all of you here. I am a new member. I joined last summer after going to the Blooming Art Show. I come from a long line of garden club members, not on Martha's Vineyard, but my grandmother started the Greenwich Garden Club. And my mother was a master gardener. She really liked formal gardens, and she actually had an exhibit in my college years at the Philadelphia Flower Show. So gardening is kind of, it's been in my blood. And I went to school for botany, which is very odd. Not a lot of people do that. And I have a degree in botany, and my area of focus was actually wildlife habitat and integration, urban integration. And I actually, my family and Polly Hill's family is intertwined. And so I knew Polly. I worked for Polly's peer, a woman named Josephine Henry. If you ever get a chance outside of Philadelphia, the Henry Foundation. She collected North American plants from different latitudes. And she and Polly grew up together. They knew each other. I worked for the Henry Foundation for a while in college. And then one year a bunch of my friends said, let's go to Martha's Vineyard. And so I said, sure, let's go to Martha's Vineyard. And Miss Henry called Polly and said, I've got this young lady, she can propagate. And so I went and it just so happened that, well, at any rate, I worked with Polly for a few days. And then I would keep seeing her, and actually she hosted my wedding luncheon at Polly Hill Arboretum, which was really kind of special. More recently, I was the environmental educator at Polly Hill for a little bit. I've kept my love of botany and plants. Mostly I'm interested in trees. My gardens, I like perennial gardens. I'm very interested in shade gardening, and I've become a fanatic of epidemiums, I mean. And I am a messy gardener, and probably much to my mother's chagrin, since she was very into the formal Tudor rose gardens, and everything in her garden was perfect. Mine is very haphazard, but I love it. I love gardening. And I've lived on the island. I came originally in 1986, and then I came back in 1993. Well, I met my husband here in 1992, and then we got married here, and I've raised my children here. I spent 20 years teaching at the Martha's Vineyard Regional High School. I was head of the science department, and my last 3 years I was an assistant principal, which was awful because, as many of you may know, being an assistant principal has absolutely nothing to do with science, and that's what my whole life is about. And I love the kids. But as assistant principal, you're always the mean one. So, that was a eye opener for me. I ended up taking an early retirement in order to take care of my mother who was ill. And then my mother passed away and COVID hit. So I have, I guess I'm in what they call a soft retirement, in that I have a few jobs that I do, but my love is gardening. And even this morning, you know, I was just out puttering around in my garden, and I'm so excited to meet other like-minded people. And what I would really like to learn is how to do flower arranging, because my sister in her garden club, they do a lot of flower arranging. She always sends me pictures, and I have nothing to send her back because mine are floppy, or it just, we're always competing on things. And I would love to be able to make a beautiful flower arrangement. That's me.
Awesome. That's great. Be careful. You know, since I joined this club, I've made a lot of friends, like-minded people. And speaking of friends, Veet, it's so nice to see you. I miss seeing people.
Hi, Katie. It's great to see you too. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So, my history with the garden club is thanks to Betty Honey, my across the street neighbor on William Street. The minute I retired from teaching in 2004, she said to me, "Now you have no more excuses, and you are joining the garden club." Betty Honey tells me that she used to go to the garden club with her mom way back, I think before the Pilgrims came. But anyways, so she is the original garden club person. And unfortunately, what I call her Monet garden has been changed into a strip of beautiful lawn, but you know, things change. But while Betty Honey still lived across the street from me, every spring, if I just opened my front door, I could see this ribbon of tulips and daffodils and crocuses, and all the way up the hill to the back of her garden, of her yard. And so it was lovely. But anyways, I think some of us dug up some of those bulbs and planted it on her grave a while back. But how did I get to the vineyard? Originally, I am from Java, the island of Java in Indonesia. And so it's from one island to the next island. I was teaching in Missouri in Independence Law, and was planning to get married. And John is from the North Shore of Danvers, Massachusetts. And he said, "Well, it's great to go to school in Missouri, but I'm not living here." He misses the ocean and he misses skiing. So I said, "I don't care, I can live anywhere." So one of the interviews he landed for both of us to teach was Martha's Vineyard. Neither of us have ever been to the vineyard. We got picked up by the assistant superintendent at that time, got to take some tour, and at the end, when the assistant superintendent brought us back to the ferry, he said, "Here are some contracts, sign them." It was just like that. So we said, well, okay, they could take us both, and we signed it. And we had no idea what we were doing, but we decided, well, you know what, we'll just stay here for a couple of years, get our resume going, and then we'll leave. Well, we never left. That was in 1968.
Wow.
So 54 years later, we are still here.
Wow.
And my parents have been here, and from, you know, I have family all over the world, and they always love it. One of my late cousins who just passed away last July always said, "The vineyard is like the Bali." I mean, yeah, he said, "The vineyard is like the Bali of Indonesia because of the culture and the beauty and so on." And I agree. The only thing that's missing is that there's dance year round, but then we have the yard. And so we do have dance here all the time. There's a lot of dance here, actually. I'll take it back. But anyways, so the one who really should be in the garden club is John, my husband, because he really does all the gardening. I just sort of boss him around. And our garden is random. He loves exotic plants, and they hardly ever live more than a year in the garden. But we do have a lot of other stuff that whatever we think is pretty or beautiful, or especially fragrant, we stick in the garden. So it's random. One thing that I do want to remember to mention, if you ever need bamboo stake, I would give you all the bamboo you want, because we forever are sending it out. That's another story for another year. But anyways, bamboo we have. And another thing that John has really successfully been able to grow is the passion flower. It's a very invasive plant, and it just keeps replanting itself year after year. And the flowers are so fragrant and beautiful, but they do take over. So what do I love about the garden club? Just about everything. As I said, I'm not a good gardener at all. I just do it randomly. I love the social aspect of it. I love to help with all the events. I am pretty good in getting donations, because after teaching here, my husband and I, since 68, I retired in 2004. A lot of the people who are business people or have anything to do with anything, at some point sat in my third grade or in John's junior high in Edgartown. So it's very easy to knock on people's door and say, well, how about it? Remember when you said in my little classroom, how about donating? So I'm not shy to get asked for donations or sell raffle tickets. What else? Other than that, and the one part I really love is Luminar. Mary Lou Perry actually got me involved in that, because she and I did Art in Bloom at the Museum of Fine Arts. I think if my memory is correct, I did it at least 3 times with her. And that was such an amazing experience. And so then when we did Bloom and Art here, it was just a natural, and I loved doing that as well. I just love arranging flowers or weeds or dry leaves from whatever we can find now. And so during my teaching years, maybe the last 15, 20 years, I always had fresh flowers in my classroom. And I sent John with fresh flowers to Edgartown every week as well, because I think it's great for children to have that, around on the reading table, or John in his office, or what have you. So I don't know what else. I'm very happy to work with Joan Evel at Windermere. I love doing that. I still have a lot of bases that have to go back to Windermere whenever they're open. I love working with Gay. Gay knows you can call on me all the time. And I've worked with Katie on various levels and various fundraising activities. So, and one more thing, in March, John and I purchased a rather large property in West District, but it had overgrown gardens. It still does. It has a ton of fruit trees, pears, peaches, apples, and I forgot who was mentioning that they discovered asparagus. We discovered asparagus as well. There are grapes, and so we have so much to do. The main building itself is being leased out to community services, so they can use it for their internship. But we told them that the gardens are off limits because we want to have a big playground. So anytime you have any good ideas about fruit trees or grapevines or anything, let me know. Or you can come play with us. John has been very successful in growing garlic. And it is amazing how much better, homegrown garlic is than what you buy in the store. So for this coming summer, he has already planted 200 garlic seeds. So maybe that can be a fundraising for the garden club. I don't know. We'll see. That's about it. Looking forward to Blooming Art. Looking forward. Before I forget, I want to say a big thank you to Katie and Susie and the leadership of the Garden Club for doing this program, because we haven't really met a lot of the new people, and it's really wonderful to meet the leadership in person and hear about you. Also, I already told Susie a couple of Zoom meetings before. Thank you for arranging the wreath workshop and then the following tea at the Old Mills. That was so nice and very, very creative to do what we can in this crazy time. Did I take too much time, Katie? Bye.
It's so great to see you. And I'm just thinking about your new property, and maybe we could arrange some kind of a pruning workshop. It sounds like you're going to have a lot of pruning to do with those trees, right? Especially the fruit trees. Wow. Very cool.
One beautiful thing about that property is that Bruce Lee Powell, who used to run bed and breakfast, I think there, she has the most amazing combination of daffodils. And the way she planted them, they keep blooming, I swear, for 2 months. There's a clump here, then that's that, there's another clump there. So I think it's close to July, there are still some daffodils somewhere. So an armful of one, so that you don't feel bad filling a whole tub of it. So that will be fun.
That's great. So great. Thanks, Veet. Sorry, finally, we have Olivia, and Olivia is a new member, and I have the pleasure of serving on another board with Olivia. So we're just getting to know each other. And at our last MVY board meeting, we kind of started to powwow on the back stairs and found out that we both love gardening. So I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here and be a part of this, and to hear everyone's love or issues with gardening, and I share many of those. I'm so glad that you were able to organize this meeting for us today. So I came to Oak Bluffs in the 50s with my parents, who we had a summer house there. I grew up in Boston. So I've been coming to the vineyard pretty much my whole life. I live in Vineyard Haven now. I started my garden about 30 years ago. And I was obsessed with my garden for the first 10 or 12 years, where that's all I wanted to do every day, all summer for years. And then I found the Master Gardener program, and I went through that. I loved every second of it. I would do it all again. I wanted to learn everything that they offered us, soil, garden design, shrubs, trees, how to maintain your perennials, how to grow vegetables, how to do everything. So as I got older, I decided to scale back my garden a little bit. It was taking up almost 3/4 of an acre here. And so I was actually turning into a slave to my garden, because it was more than one woman could do. I kept buying new things, and I would hire people to help me, but they didn't really have a horticulture background, so things weren't always going extremely well. I don't know if any of you have had that experience. So now it's manageable size. I don't have vegetables. I love vegetables, but I don't grow them. Other people grow them and share them with me. But I do have tons and tons of perennials. And I kind of like the English cottage garden look, although you wouldn't know it sometimes to look at my garden. I love things growing on trellises, so I've started having lots of clematis and other growing, things growing upright. I love visiting other people's gardens and talking to them about their plants and their plant design, garden design, what works and what doesn't work. Every summer I take some things out, or during the year I take things out. The deer were really brutal last year, so I took out a lot of things that the deer like, but I always add new things every year. So I'm always tweaking it as I discover new things to put in the ground. And I need some professional help this year. I need somebody that understands what this is all about to help me so that I can keep it going. So thank you. I think that's it for me.
Thank you. It's so good to see you. And I think that that's everybody. And I just want to say, oh, Donna, go for it.
Okay, I just wanted to say a couple of things. So I'm hearing a lot of stories out there. So just a little, I just want to throw this out there since it's winter, and oftentimes I think we're a little bit bored inside, or we're dreaming of our garden, or we're thinking of some spectacular plant that we have or something we love and we want to share. When I was in the Master Gardener program in Jersey, I was working with the editor on the newsletter. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about being the co-editor was having people talk about their garden experiences and write about things that they love. So I'm going to just throw this out there. Anybody that has a little story they want to tell, a plant they love, a thing they want to write about gardening, even snippets from your garden journal that you think would be wonderful to share, just send them to me. It's going to be in the newsletter. I'm going to solicit that when I send the first newsletter out the end of January, but I'm just planting the seed, no pun intended, in your mind. If you have, an idea, something you want to run with, write a little blurb, send it to me, and I'll intersperse it. It doesn't have to become a job, but it could just be something that sporadically, if you want to share. I would love, love, love to make this newsletter about all of us, not just about, what the board thinks needs to be out there. I want this to be our thing. So just keep that in mind, okay?
That's awesome. And I think also, if you have great garden resources, send them along to Donna. If you got, we talked about websites, favorite books, favorite nurseries, tours, whatever it is that you see, garden conferences. There's a lot of garden conferences that go on in the wintertime that now we can take advantage of virtually. And we'll be kind of feeding that to Donna too. And oh, one more thing. So at one of our programs that we're looking forward to in the fall is kind of a garden club forum. So if we have members that are experts on specific things, we'd like to kind of line them up, hopefully in person, and talk about our specialties. And at the same time, we want to have a book exchange. So if you have old garden books, old garden magazines, things, I've got probably 20 years of Martha Stewart Living garden magazines. I've got to clean all of that out. Please don't throw those away. Let's save them for that meeting so that we can trade. Okay. Anybody? Yeah, Pam.
Hi. After hearing so many talented and knowledgeable people, I was wondering, there's been some interest in garden tours. If we could have a special tour for help me save this spot. I need advice. I need ideas, specific critiques with no holds back, where we all get together and put our heads together and help somebody's trouble spot.
Great idea. That's a great idea. Who was it that was talking earlier about they developed a program in New Jersey? Was it you, Joan? I mean, where you can kind of go to each other's gardens and talk about, they don't have to be perfect, but talk about what you have going on and maybe ask for help.
Sort of like a mentorship kind of a thing. Yes, yes. I'm a New Jersey gardener who gardened for 25 years in Jersey pretty successfully, but I come here and I feel like I'm a dummy. I'm losing a lot of things, or a lot of things don't work out for me. So I'm with you, Pam. I think we need to forge ahead with that idea.
Yeah, I moved from mid-Atlantic to New England. It's been rough.
Yeah, I get you.
Well, that's such a great idea. Anybody else have a question or anything before we sign off? Go ahead, Jane.
Hey, Katie. Fantastic session. I just wanted to say a few words about Blooming Art and the floral design component that Trudy and I are looking after. We, again, this year are looking to have 34 floral designers to match up with the artwork. As of this morning, I think, Trudy, we have 19 people who are interested in doing that. And it's great to see some of our new members participating, Pam being one of them. And Pam's going to be matching up with Irene Zebarth to work as a duo on a design. Irene's going to do one separately as well. But we're really excited about having new members participate. It's going to be a wonderful event. The sooner we can get the 34 floral designers put together, the sooner we can then match them up with the artists. And we're very open to having people work individually as a duo. We've got some very experienced designers like Irene, many others who've offered to mentor new designers, to work with them on a design. So please be open to that. And then we have Fawn doing the workshop in May. Judy Bryant and Nancy Cabot are also going to do another floral demonstration workshop. And the final thing is we are going to do for the second time after last year, the tour of the Boston Museum of Fine Art, their Blooming Art show in April. It's an online tour. It was really well received last year. So there's more information to come on that, but we will do that again in April. It's about a 1-hour tour, and we'll have a photographer online with us, an artist, a floral designer, question and answer at the end. And that's also going to give some creative input for everybody. So that's kind of where we're at on floral design.
Awesome. So I don't know about you guys. Sure, go ahead.
I just want to add something to what Jane said, and that is that I had never done a floral design ever for myself, for anybody, until last year, and it was really wonderful. But the thing I learned after the fact, which will make, when I say this, will make it less intimidating for people, is that when the floral design and artist people get together to make the assignments, they give the easiest art to the newcomers. So you can relax that you're not going to get something that will make you just leave the island. So.
You'll all be pros after my talk.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We have a seat at the floral design table for everyone, so please join us.
That's wonderful. So I don't know about you guys, but a few days ago, we were thinking we weren't going to have a meeting. And between Susan and Donna and Jane and a few others, we were somehow able to pull this together. And I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did, because I thought it was awesome.
It's excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, great.
Thank you all.
Have a great afternoon. Happy gardening.